Good morning, everyone. Welcome along. Welcome to Steel Horse Station. It is 7 a.m. here in sunny Melbourne on Anzac Day. Special day on the calendar for remembering our service people in this part of the world. So we won't interrupt proceedings in any particular way, but just something worth bearing in mind. Lots of people around the country will have been to a dawn service, as is the tradition. And that's just where we are. I hope everyone's enjoyed the beginning to their week. It's still Monday evening and afternoon in the UK, Europe and US respectively. And we are today off to Newlands. So without any further ado, let us jump across to Newlands, which means we need to hit these buttons here. And everything should be good. Right. So, over in Newlands, the first things that people will see is it's changed just a little bit since last week. So I had a bit of a think about where we were at and what I was trying to do. We needed something to do with the canola, and we'd put a silo in over in the little industrial area that I was struggling to pour the canola into, and so we were looking at, or I was looking at other options for the canola. What in the end I decided to do was actually, we only had 40 odd thousand, if that, litres of canola, and my recollection from last year was that the pigs actually went through it pretty quick. So I decided that why don't I just put the canola in the pig pens, which I did. So the roughage, which I think is the canola, the protein food is the canola for the pigs. So both the pig extension yard and the main pig pen have plenty of protein food for the moment, which is fine. And that kind of led me to, well, okay, I don't have to store the canola. So I sold the silo. As you can see, I also sold the barn that we had here. And my reason for doing that was I wanted to add the silage clamps, and I concluded the best place to put them was to tuck them in behind this shed. So that's actually worked fairly well. So we just did a little bit of landscaping and they slotted in there, and the cash enabled us to buy that. The next step here, in order to sell the barn, I'm just running you through the logic. I had to take, we had some product in it. So in effect, I used a little bit of magic and swapped it out for the equivalent volume in straw bales, conditioned grass bales, and hay bales. Are they hay bales? They're conditioned grass, so I had them the wrong way around. And so what I'm thinking we'll do a little bit later on is pop one of these, because the barn was proving inconvenient, I felt. So I'm thinking what we'll do is pop one of these sheds that came out with the last release, something in here like this. G'day, Mark. Welcome along. And so if we put one of these storage sheds in here, then that'll leave enough room ultimately for when we do need it, our silo complex, and I'm thinking potentially something along these lines to fit in the corner without getting to, but it doesn't become the priority because we don't have a need for the crop for it. The priority today is to get this corn off so that we can get the canola in and seeded. So that's what I was working on and towards. September's the end of the planting window or the seeding window for canola, and we definitely need to get our canola in, and this is the field I want to put it in, so it kind of drives the activity. Update from Logitech as I have to figure out how I managed to fix it last time. Hope your Monday was a good one, Mark. There we go. It's just... At least this week it doesn't appear to have broken my mouse. And I've now got to remember what I did to actually get it to remember my wheel settings. Or in particular, the return spring. That's the thing that seems to get tangled up. There we go. Can we get out of there? Turn, turn, turn. And around we go. So the new clamp seems to... Oh, there you go. Oh, it's not just me. I feel so much better. I was worried that it was me doing something. It's definitely got something to do with how that utility saves settings, I think. So hopefully we'll be able to get this off here in reasonable time. In investigating the bunkers, I discovered some more slightly odd that's interesting. So my method is, because I invariably forget to turn it off before I start the game, so I start the game and go to use it and realize that I just about can't turn the wheel, and so at that point I pop out into the utility and just turn it off and on, and it works fine. So it's really quite odd. So the interesting discovery when I went to clear up that mess I was creating with the bunkers that we already had was, despite the first Maize Plus bunker that we'd put the grass silage in, was showing that it still had some in it. Yet when I went into the placeable XML in the save game, it said it was empty, which I found to be really odd. And that was the point where I decided that something quite screwy was going on with that bunker, and that therefore the safest thing to do would be to put a new one in that had the right characteristics. And so I found that long drive through one, which we're going to head over to now. Can't get through there. Let's find my way around the equipment, and we will drive through. So this setup seems to be working quite well. An interesting side light is simply the process of driving through and delivering has given me 24% compaction in here, which I find to be somewhat odd, but I won't complain. Oh, I lost some on that one. Let's see, where was I up to? Cut the other way for this one. So it shouldn't take too long to get the crop off here. I quite like this forage harvester. It's very maneuverable. It does the job, and we did a good job mating it with a trailer. This trailer's a good size and works well with it. And I'm thinking what I'm going to do is take about that angle there. What's that? 153. Probably not the greatest heading in the world, but let's just get you off. Welcome along, whoever's popped in. Great to see you. Hope the beginning of your week is going well. Mine is. Although my team lost the football last night, my niece had a great time at the game, so we'll take one. Stone picking on an 81 hectare field, that just feels like unnecessary punishment. It's funny how different activities different people go for. It's trying to go. I've sort of got to take another slice off there, don't I? For me, stone picking is the activity that I most easily decide not to go with. That is 270,000 litres of lime, so that is a lot of lime. Although I can't remember the general conversion or application rates, but I'm tipping 270,000 litres of lime won't go far on your field. Oh, come on, turn on the right buttons. There we go. I'm thinking about, oh, maybe. I reckon you'll put about 160,000 of that back into the field if memory serves. So it washes its face, there's no doubt about that. I presume you have an insanely large rock picker. I've certainly found that's a really good point you make. With precision farming, I haven't tested it scientifically, but I had the impression that if you lime every year, you don't appear to use as much. It certainly doesn't take you as long. So we'll get to those bunkers in due course. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Lime after every harvest, or I try to. But so far, this method seems to be working all right. I do need to switch tip side. I was just trying to get that one packed. That's a good point. We'll do that for next time. Tip side left, tip side right. There we go. And down again. And what heading are we chuffing up here on? 153 it is. It's funny that most cathartic role I find in the game is actually grass work. Whatever reason, just and I don't mind particularly whether I'm making hay or silage. I figured you would have a suitably equipped device. So the compromise I tend to lean into is I turn stones off, but I keep weeds on. I always makes me smile how head up Mr. Sealy P gets about weeds. That's a lot of time stone picking. Oops, I haven't put the time back to 2 times. As we are on a schedule here, we're trying to get this field done today. Yield improved just a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. I don't mind most bits of field work in that situation. I haven't tended to be a huge GPS user. I like when I'm playing and thinking about it. That's why one of the reasons I'm really enjoying Oaks is I like to get lots of jobs happening and try and sort of keep the plates spinning, so to speak. This farm has lots of jobs, but I tend to be more interested in doing them serially. So, you know, the idea of foraging this field I find appealing, which is interesting. Yes, I can imagine on an 81 hectare field that being required. You never know. Somewhere in the future here, so you're cutting that. What's really interesting is where the hell are you putting it? Right, we have the other tip side. Let's try and get you somewhat close to the edge. Roughly match our speed down there so it drops out. Coming along. I'm just trying to remember that field 68 on Oaks that we were working in last night's stream with the canola. That's about 30 hectares, or is it 30 acres? Remember. We could end up with of big fields on here by the time we buy a few more plots of land and clear a few more trees. I did between streams run round and pick some of the trees that were scattered around the place that we'd felled up, pick up some of the trees that we had felled. Welcome along, other folks that have popped in. Great to see you. Wow, that's a big harvest. Did you do that just with the single harvester, or did you have a couple of them running? I'll finish this little section over here. So, Jason Rowe, that is a lot of sunflowers, I agree. Welcome along, sir. Have you been dawn servicing this morning, Jason, or is it just a normal, albeit a public holiday day for you? Yeah, that sounds like good setup. I haven't used the 60-foot honeybee. I like the 50-foot that we've got on Griffin. Your fields need to be dead flat, I've noticed, with the honeybees. Not a big fan of undulations. And Jason and others that have arrived in the chat. Are very good. Tanner, great to see you. Welcome along. Did you serve, Jason? If you don't mind me asking. Yeah, that's a cool thing to do. I remember marching with my grandfather as a young fella. He was a chief petty officer in the Second World War. Minesweepers fought in the Battle of the Coral Sea. Didn't talk about it much at all. Right, that's another full trailer. Thought the things that they arranged, or that somewhat spontaneously spread during COVID, were really cool aspect of Anzac Day. So dawn service is a big part of the tradition here for remembering the fallen, and because we couldn't congregate during Anzac Day, that was during COVID, that was a big issue, challenge, whatever. And so a new sort of pattern emerged where neighbourhoods held dawn services in effect in their street. and people stood at the end of their driveway, which was pretty cool. And so a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily have gone to a dawn service participated, because all they had to do was walk down their driveway or out the front door of their house. I thought that was a pretty cool thing. My daughter is a primary school teacher, and she's had her class making wreaths to lay. These days, my daughter's partner is a reservist, so he's always, well, he will have been since before dawn today for sure. Not sure where in Brisbane he was marching today, or whether he actually had duty. So there you go. So a solemn tone for today's stream in some respects, lest we forget. On another topic, and so Tanner and Jason, you might notice we've had a couple of changes around the place. I'll cover them as I drive back over in a sec. Mark, question for you, possibly requires pondering, but I'll pose it here anyway. So I know, I'm fairly sure you're not a watcher of the Silver Run series, but to catch you up, of recent times there's been some changes, and I'm kind of messing with the map within the constraints of what you can do, given that Giants of it's part of the Platinum DLC and it's restricted, so I can't get in and change it in the same way that I've been fiddling with the Oaks. Nonetheless, as the series goes, spoiler alert for those that aren't caught up, we've had a bit of a fire, and part of the new sawmill has burnt to the ground, as has the roller coaster. Now, what's interesting about those areas, apart from the fact that the new sawmill's located on very flat ground and that I would like to use for other things, is it's land that I can't own. And so I'm getting to my question. I can see, if I go into the farmland.xml in my save game, that curiously, I can't remember the specifics, but farmland, say 1 to 43 are defined, and then there's a farmland 62 and a farmland 63. And so what I wondered was, well, has in fact whole of the map been defined, and just in some way Giants have restricted the areas that are available for sale? And if so, and the simplest thing I tried was just putting a statement in the XML to denote, I've just replicated the others and titled them and filled in the consecutive numbers, and then tried to allocate them to myself. It hasn't had any effect. I was wondering if there was something else I needed to do, or whether I could use a lure to do it, to tell the map that I wanted to own a defined but not visible farm area, or whether you had any clues about how to go about that. So answering the question's probably a bit beyond the stream here, but I just thought I'd pose it to you to ponder. Because as it stands at the minute, whilst I can place objects on the new sawmill area, I can't actually plough the ground there, which is what I would like to be able to do. Yes, if I can't sort it out, it's not the end of the world. I've got other threads that we can pull. The Agco dealership that has arrived in town is starting to look like a dealership. So what we've done here, folks, if you haven't seen, so I sold the barn. I turned the contents of the barn into bales, and we're going to put a bale storage shed just in over here. As you can see, we did a little bit of landscaping and popped the silage bunker at the back here and tucked it through so that we've now got a drive through one, and I think this is working quite nicely. And it's a bit bigger capacity than what we had, so it'll serve us well for a while. And it's only locked insofar as your ability to get in and mess with it at a code level is locked. I suspect that it's all sort of sitting there in the background, and therefore aspects of it can be manipulated. And certainly, you know, that's yes, I thought it slotted in there quite nicely, and what it meant was it's not out here in the middle of proceedings. I still want to put a shed on the edge of the grass field there, Jason. So what I'm getting at, Mark, is I understand what you're saying, and my hypothesis is that the fields are actually defined in the map. It's just that they haven't been made visible. And my evidence for that is, why on earth else would you have a farmland ID file that it's basically sequential farmland area fields with a gap in the middle? And so on the basis that they might be there, what I was wondering is, well, can I change the attributes? Without knowing what the attributes are, can I use a piece of lure code, for example, to change an attribute of something that is defined and just not visible to me, so so that I can use it, because it's not like I want to do it regularly. I just want to change it so that the owner of the land is me. It doesn't even need to be a sale transaction. It just needs to give me the rights to manipulate it. So anyway, that was just the question. So that's something I am messing with in the background. So yeah, over there on the edge of the grass field, I still want to put an equipment shed or two. And then I'm thinking the back of the grass field here will then add to the field that's beside it, just to make that field a little bit bigger. Yeah, so that's the file I'm talking about. So that has field IDs 1 through 42 defined, and then it has field 62 and 63 for argument's sake. And so my first attempt was just to put in what looks to be the missing lines to see if I can pull the game into letting me use them. That didn't work. But you can't change the map XML. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. Correct. But I can't change the map XML because I don't know where the map XML is. Oops, we're still eating corn, even though we're full. And just sprays it on the floor. Yeah, I understand. My naive vain hope was that there was a cute little way I could duck around the edge of that fact mark. Okay, let's tip you out. So what we're trying to do here, folks, is get all this corn maize harvested so that we can, before the end of the day, get canola planted in the field that we're working on, which is going to be a bit of an ask, seeing as it needs to be mulched, planted, ploughed, probably limed and seeded, but not impossible. It's not an enormous size field. The real essence of my hypothesis, Mark, is that an expectation that the fields that I want, or the pieces of land that I want, are already defined in the XML. They're just hidden by whatever in the map XML. They're just hidden by whatever obfuscation technique giants have used in the encryption of the DLC. And so I don't want to crack or break that. I just want to change a parameter that allows me to interact with the map. So anyway, just an interesting thought. I was quite pleasantly surprised when I realized I could get rid of the roller coaster very easily. But once the map's running, could I not change the price scale in the code? How did I get rid of the roller coaster? Accidental inspiration. I was looking for something in the this is also a behind the scenes for those that are watching the stream. This is how I did it. I was looking for something in the placeables XML and noticed that the roller coaster was an object and it had an entry in the placeables XML, and I thought, oh, I wonder, because I knew I'd already tried to hide it using the map object hider, and that, as it is with placeables, well, in fact, with the roller coaster, it wouldn't work at all. It's such a big object, I couldn't find the point to select it. But when I tried it on the yacht club or the boat building business, it sold it, but it didn't actually take it off the map. So all I did was change the Y coordinate, reduced it by 50, and in effect hid it underground, and lo and behold, when I booted up the map, the roller coaster is gone. So no, I didn't use object hider. I was a much coarser method than that. I simply relocated it on the map to underground. And for my intents and purposes, works a treat. And in fact, what's neat about it, as you'll see, well, as those that watch will see in the next episode, it leaves all the terrain there, but all of the decoration that's associated with the roller coaster is tied into that single object. So it all goes. Yes, yeah, and so I had a crack at saving at changing that. So in my farmlands XML, I've changed the farmland IDs for those hidden bits of farmland, but it had no ability, it gave me no extra capacity to do anything with that land on the map. Okay. You've given me some clues. I will experiment. Thank you. Right. Okay. So it's got an extra S on it. Oh, I'm full again, just chomping up my corn. By the time I'm done here, I'll have wasted half a trailer by driving over it. So we're getting through it here. Yeah, the essence of my hypothesis, Mark, was that, so I agree with you, However, what I was hoping for is that they wouldn't have gone to such an extreme length as to change the data structures for the functioning of the code, and so therefore the relevant lines will be there. The tags might not be present, but the relevant lines will be sitting in tables, and therefore a piece of general code will still be able to adjust them if it acts in the right way. And it's just that those functions in the broader game have been disabled in a limited way. So that gives me something to think about. As I say, I've got multiple story threads. It's not my it's not a make or break sort of deal. It was just more, having had the fire, I've cleared out a large swathe of land, and my first thought as part of the post fire effort was that it'd be kind of a neat spot for a grass field while the town decides what it wants to do, but I just can't seed it. I'm going to leave that little bit on the corner. Get him on the next run. How was your golf game? Worth getting up and going out for? Nancy, welcome along, sir. Great to see you. I think we've just got Mark Haythornwaite in the chat at the minute. There might be, or Jason Rowe might be lurking there in the background. Fourth is good, as long as there were 5 or more in the competition. Jason is still here. Excellent. We are just on Newlands this morning, Argsy. Getting rid of our corn. I did see, just as I fired up this morning, that you've put out a vid on the shepherd's crook you were talking about on your stream last week, which I'm most intrigued about because we have a need for it here. So obviously I haven't seen what you put out. Is it generally available somewhere that I can get hold of it? Because up here on the hill I've got a main pigsty, and I'm using the animal extension mod, so we regularly run out of space. So there's an extension yard next door, and the ability just to walk some pigs around the corner rather than having to mess with the trailer would be fabulous. For those in the chat that don't know what I'm talking about, Argsy's well, he's had an idea he's been talking about for a while, but whether it's independent or otherwise, someone he knows on Facebook has actually turned it into a mod, which sounds really interesting. Basically, it gives you a handheld object that the game treats as a trailer, so that you can move a small number of animals just with your character. If I've understood correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. That's basically how it works. Hand tool, it works as a trailer. There you go. I was wondering if by extension you could do the same thing and have like a whip that you could activate when you rode a horse, so that you could do the same thing with cows, and a similar version with the dog that you could use for sheep. So in effect, attach a trailer to the dog object and direct it to go somewhere would be kind of cool. I've been trying to learn enough about the mechanics. I'd like the ability to have sheep sitting in a pasture throughout the year, rack up credits instead of producing wool. Well, let's just think about it in terms of credits. And then at the end of, or after a given period, you have to take the sheep and the credits to another placeable building. Let's, for argument's sake, call it a shearing shed. And over the course of a game cycle, those credits and the sheep are then turned into your wool for the season. So in effect, you're getting a wool delivery once a year, just like you get a crop. That's the concept. Probably shouldn't be talking about it in a live stream, but I don't think there's a lot of people. And if Mark manages to turn that into, or Argsy turn that into a mod that gets on the ModHub before I learn enough to be able to do it myself, then more power to you. But I reckon that'd be a cool way for sheep to work, rather than this idea that they produce a little bit of wool every month. And I don't, if you kind of work on that concept, I don't think it's an enormous stretch for the mechanics to be able to do something a bit similar. Oh, there you go. See, not ever having used FS19, I don't have that history, but that's certainly an aspect that I've got in mind. And so, you know, the credit sort of arrangement would be just like a an artifact with no value that's created as a way to move or trigger the production. Which months does shearing happen in? Well, I'm going to let Argsy answer because I'm guessing he is closer to the action on that. Oh, Jason might even have a point of view there. My real world experience with sheep is limited to moving them between paddocks and watching the crotching and fly treatment process, slapping them with the whatever that gunk you paint on their rear end is. But those stages were in the next step. I thought if I could get the basic mechanics of sheep working in a different way happening, then the ability to introduce a concept like having to worm them and the like, or treat them for flies, would be relatively straightforward. So you just put more steps in the process. Well, that was it was actually, having played this for 40 odd streams now, that helped develop a bit of the idea. Certainly aspects of how they work can be adapted. And if you look at things like the mod, I can't remember whose mod it is, that as the sheep produce milk, that was kind of like, well, okay, so that's the mechanism that has the sheep produce different products, so it's easy enough to define a new fill type then and have that used in a different way. That was the concept. Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm talking about, Argsy. You have got it in one, sir. The game mechanics are about delivering on a monthly basis, so that's why if you have a new fill type, let's call it a wool mark. So wool marks accumulate the pasture just like normal, and when it comes time to shear, you have to physically move your sheep and your wool marks to the shearing shed production, and it's the shearing shed production that turns the wool marks into wool. So it's a batching process in effect. And so then it's a matter of getting a a trigger that affects the operation of the production. Yeah, that's the path I'm on, Argsy. And I'm just, well, Mark Haythornwaite can attest to I'm really starting from zero when it comes to lure code. So I'm making some progress, but I'm learning fast. Won't work like that, as you can say. One sheep produces X wool marks a month. Can't keep it till the end. Yeah, so it doesn't matter that the wool marks, whatever the ratio of wool marks, every month you will get a certain number of wool marks correct. But to process them as a set, you need to take all your sheep across to the shearing shed. And if there's a way to gate the shearing shed so that it only operates a couple of months a year. Yeah, Argsy's got it. G'day, Hodge One. Welcome in. How are you today, sir? Argsy is absolutely on the concept. I suspect Mark has it as well, and he's looking at it from the technical standpoint, saying, well, there's all these bloody problems you've got to solve before you can think about it like that. And they're hard. Yeah. I understand. I'll get my technical people to talk to your technical people. We'll sort it out. At least that used to work when I did it for a living. I'm pretty confident. So the other thing that kind of helped me develop that line of idea was the meat processing plant that we've got on here. Now, whilst that doesn't have the same time sense, the ability to kind of sell down the animal. Now, obviously, we don't want the production of wool to be a destructive process for the sheep, but nonetheless, there's an element of that concept that we could borrow. I sat down to try and draw it out. I've never been your boss, Mark, but I have been known to use things like that with my teams. It's amazing how framing the challenge in particular ways leads to creativity. It's also amazing how if you assemble, it never cease to floor me, giving different problems framed in different ways to different nationalities, and I'm not being racist, I'm just reflecting that different communities around the world actually have practiced different problem solving techniques. And it's really interesting when you've got access to a global community, the ways in which you can start to knit that together. Jason, I've always wondered if you could have a trigger like the buy point mounted between the yards and another meshed field that you could move them. Like trailer to yard. So, oh, this is within a field, because I think you can. Well, if I've understood what you're getting at, I can see a world where instead of today, most placeable areas, we'd work on sheep for the minute. Yeah. So if we work on sheep for a minute, most sheep areas are single contiguous units. In fact, I can't think of one that isn't. I've been wondering what if instead of having a sheep pasture as, you know, holding 100 head of sheep, what if you had a mesh that only held 10, but they were different funky shapes, and you positioned them in your pasture however you liked? Is there a mechanism along the lines of what you're talking about that would get sheep to move from one to another in the pasture? Because at the moment in that Giants model, they all sort of spread out evenly over the mesh. Well, I don't know if you've ever looked at sheep in a field, but they don't tend to do that. They're more clustering animals as a general rule, in my observation. Weather conditions often drive that. Other threats. In game they do, yes. And so if you change the shape and actions of the mesh, so for instance, if I had a paddock with 10 meshes in it, each mesh I can define how many animals to depict up to the number that it's defined for. So I could in effect tell 9 of them that I didn't want it to show any animals, and 1 of them to show all the animals or a bunch of animals, and then I would get a cluster in the corner of my paddock. Yeah, that's very much the sort of line that I'm hoping we can move along, Jason. That's the essence of the concept. If we get enough clever folks talking about it, we might be able to bring some of it into existence. I got distracted during this past week by trying to get the bank mod sorted, and also by which is just a separate little, well, let's call it the rural finance mod, Bank of Steel. I got distracted by that, and I was also distracted in the sheep. And so I was looking for a good picture of a shearing shed to start my blender experience, because yeah, so much more realistic. So much more realistic. And it would turn sheep into a far more interesting proposition, because then once you've got that basic model working, then the opportunity to have, so I was kind of looking at it like, you know, if we're in a field here, there's a life cycle for the field in order to get the crop. There's a whole bunch of things you have to do in series, and the way you do them affects the yield. Well, once you've got the model we've been talking about in place for sheep, then that becomes true of sheep, right? Because if you don't crotch them at the right time, if you don't, or you don't treat them for fly strike, and 100 other things, graze them in different pastures, those sorts of things, you can easily get to the point where then actually having sheep is as meaningful to a farmer that's got that interest as oops, we're just about at the limits here by the looks of what I can pull through. It becomes as meaningful as cropping, rather than how it is at the minute, where they're just a pretty basic production. You know, you pop feed in and get wool out. I'm sure there's a concept that's in there for milk, but for me, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just local experience. Sheep just struck me as the first cab off the rank. We're getting there. Probably not quite at the point. It'd be best to get all the crop off, or otherwise I'll accidentally mulch. I have no idea what Terra Life is. Pray tell. Yeah, it could be. As a variant of that, and just sort of thinking about it, probably more because the in-game implementation of sheep is so much more different than what I've observed to occur on the farms that I've been on. Whereas with dairy cows and beef cattle, the differences aren't as extreme. Interesting. I guess that's the natural extension of, if you've got a whole bunch of different feed types for the animals, then having them moving differently is a logical next step. I can't even begin to think of a comeback there. Argsy, just words fail me. Happy Anzac Day, by the way, Argsy. Oop. Probably should turn the other way and leave a bit on the corner again. Oops, we're full. Just destroying my crop. And whilst you wouldn't have seen it, there was a big game at the MCG last night, AFL game, which is of little interest to you, Argsy, I suspect, but unusually, because it's only something they do at this time of the year, they sang both the Australian and New Zealand anthem before the game. And now I want to just get the right button here. And I have no idea which tip side I've got, but we'll find out in a second. That's the run. And they get servicemen to sing the anthems. And anyway, the lady that sang the New Zealand national anthem, well, actually both ladies that sang the anthems did terrific jobs, but the rendition of the New Zealand national anthem was particularly good, I thought. The wrong team won last night, but can't have everything. I have no idea about leagues handling. I don't generally, like, I'm aware that it's on and talked about, and if I see it on the news I'll watch it, but wouldn't necessarily watch the game. Oh, as it turns out, I didn't watch last night's game either, and Collingwood Essendon this afternoon probably won't watch. We've got a bit of a afternoon tea function at our house today. Yeah, I thought it was particularly cool, and it was a great experience for my niece from the UK because she hadn't been to the MCG before, and MCG is pretty special when you have kind of emotional events. It's a ground that big with, you know, an 80,000 plus crowd. Being respectful and silent makes the hairs in the back of your neck stand up. It's really quite an eerie, memorable experience. I've been in the G when it's been substantially full on several occasions when it's been silent for an extended period, and it's unusual. One of them, the first one, was actually the day of the underarm incident. Yeah, 30,000 is pretty empty. It comes alive once you get into the 60s. It's just a magic place to watch sport. But the day of the underarm incident, no, you've forgotten about that? It's not traumatic? It was just wrong on so many levels, but the crowd was stunned. It just couldn't believe it was happening, and it was so unnecessary. I just don't know what Greg was thinking. Oh, yeah, 6 would have won it. So I think you needed 5 runs. And maybe it was 4. It kind of was. It was so farcical. There hadn't been a 6 hit all day, because this was back in the era where the fence was the boundary, right? So, so let alone the fact that it was a number 9 bass, and there hadn't been a 6 hit all day, and nothing about the way that the guy was batting gave any indication it was even a chance. Yeah, except this one wasn't the officials that decided the game, Mark. It was the players, or the Australian captain and the and his brother. Younger brother. But anyway, these moments are designed to give us something to talk about for decades to come. Oop. Getting a little bit steep in the front. I might need a tractor to pull that in there. Now I'm gone and done it. I'm gonna back you out now. Come on, come on. Take you off there. Oh yeah, it was a great day. It was a great day. It's memorable for a completely different reason. So I went with my now wife and a mate and his then girlfriend, now wife, and the thing that made it memorable, what am I looking for? A big tractor. That's the big tractor I want. And she turned up to the cricket in the middle of summer in stockings, which just struck me as bizarre. So it wasn't a super hot day. It was warm, comfortable. About 85,000 people there, so it was a good crowd. And up until the last ball, it was actually a really good game of cricket. So while we've been streaming today, Mark has been doing a stone picking contract. I can't remember what map you're playing, but it's an 81 hectare field, and as he's just reported, he's picked 170,000 litres of stones off it. which sounds to me a lot like cruel and unnatural punishment. Let's see here. Tip side left, that's what we wanted. Oh, you're on the 4X West Australia. There you go. Speaking of Western Australia, Argsy, I took an opportunity yesterday to get my I was trying to get onto West Australia 16X to sort of do it a little bit while I had a few minutes, but also to make sure that I was current for Wednesday night's stream. And I had a few challenges trying to synchronize the mods, and in particular there's one that just won't synchronize. The the 53-foot trailers from I can't remember who they are, and I've got no idea what to do about it. I assume the best thing to do is just post a message for Chinook. Is that the right way to go? Because I don't know how to fix it. I tried. It doesn't come up properly in the list. It doesn't show as installed even when it's there, nor does it give me the option to update it. It's really quite odd. I obviously had it before, so and I've got the current version off the ModHub. It's really weird. I mean, there were a heap in there, and the ModHub updating process is problematic at the best of times. I reckon it took me 3 goes to get some of them. It would tell me it had downloaded them, and then I'd go to restart the game and it's, oh no, you need to update these mods. It's like, I just did that twice. Righty-ho. With any luck, we're on the home stretch here. Yeah, that was kind of the line I was going along, and I generally I'll have to try that. For some reason it didn't appear to be giving me that option, or maybe I was looking in the wrong spot. Usually when that's the case, Chinook has a link to the mod in the Discord. He's got a special section, or Argsy has a special section there for the mod related stuff, and so that was true for a couple of them, which I then grabbed from the link that he posted, and they worked fine. But this one just didn't seem to matter. Thank you. Didn't seem to matter what I did. It just didn't want to have a bar of it. Righty ho, just that little patch up there. Good job done. Wasn't paying attention to how much Yeah, so where's the liming start on the field? You've just cleared the stones off, Mark, or have you got to plough it first? Or coffee might be required shortly. Ah. So 81 hectares. You're doing that with a 3-meter seeder? Maybe a, you know, convoy of the little narrow fence pulling 3-meter seeders. That's 30 meters. Oh, there you go, just 10 of them. I don't think you can run 10 machines in course play. I think it's limited to 9. You're on FSG. It took a little bit longer to get through. And the light is fading, but we got it off. I do want to get the canola in here. I'm going to slow the clock down because I don't want to be doing it in the dark if I can help it. Interesting to see how fast I can get it. The slowest bit is, I'm pretty sure this field's going to need ploughing given it had the corn in it. Oh, back up. At that last stalk. And then what I can do... run down here. Don't worry about course play for the minute. We'll come back and drive this ourselves in a sec. We'll just use something like thank you. Left a header reel running. Not good. At least now we're ready to pull the corn off. No worries, Mark. Thanks for riding along with us. Glad you got your stone picking sorted. have a good week, and if the stars align, we'll see you in 3 days' time on the Oaks. Now, what we'll do here, we'll need the other tractor to empty that, but I want the other tractor in a minute. Oh, what we can do, let's pop down. So what's going to happen over here is we're going to put the new bale shed in the corner. And let's put it down around the right way. I made a little hole for it to go in. How can I not have enough money? That's ridiculous. That's better. There's something along those sort of lines. Do the trick. What does it look like, the edge of that? Is that just me, or are the walls not square to the ceiling? That one's just a parallax error, but that looked a bit bizarre. Okay, so at some point we can pop that the bales in there, get them out of the yards. Now we're looking for plow. Do I not have a plow? Do have a plow. Where is the plow? Not there. Well, we're getting there slowly. Just very slowly. Oh, I know where the plow is. Plow is over at the new field. Yeah. Somewhere. I was marking out this area, but events overtook us. Now I'm gonna have to looks like I'm gonna have to check the overhead. Let's see here. Where have I got? Tools turned on. There it is. Yep. Good night, Hodge One. Or were you saying good night to Mark? You might have been saying good night to Mark. I just read the context. Welcome back, Hodge One. There is the plow. So this will be the areas that we clear once we're through our harvests. Shadows are getting pretty long. Coming up to end of day. Whoop. Missed it. Skill. He's powering through that job. The other thing we need to be doing is spreading some lime, I suspect. So what we might do, you can wait for a tick. Let's have a look. So you don't have to be anything. I just need to read the chat in context. The pH is not horrid, but I will top it up. Let's just pop you on there. Because we want as much canola off this field as we can get. Doing our really fast turnaround here. What have we got in there? Nothing, which is good. Let's fill up with some lime. Can probably do something like, it's almost going to be a 42-meter stripe down there, isn't it? Thanks for stopping by, Argsy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope work is kicking goals for you. And all being well, I'll catch you tomorrow night on your stream. So have a good one. Let's just... Of course it's a day off today, I should know that. Doesn't take long. It's the lime here. It's not also not using it at a prodigious rate, so that's good. A little bit of overlap there, it's not too much of a problem. Burr it to mulch first. Not for any particular reason other than just think it looks nicer. So now we're perfect pH, that's what we want to see. You're going there. Let's check on the aminals. So the main pigsty is in good shape. Pig extension yard needs some primary feed, which will be the corn grist that we will get when we harvest the corn next month. And there's only a few in there. Spread on the lime spreader is 42 meters, which is a little excessive. We need to probably switch to something that's a bit more in keeping with the farm, but for the minute that gets the job done. Cow situation is good. We do have some milk that needs selling. And the sheep are good. Okay. In fact, sheep are up to full health. We have some sheep that we probably want to take across and turn into lamb roast. So we can do that next time. Way up to, you've disappeared up to the end, so just got to wait until you finish. I was talking before, real bizarre situation with these silos. So this one's showing us 49,000 litres of maize silage still in it. And this one's showing us 0, even though it's got a big lump in it. So I don't know how to actually get rid of that. What I'm tempted to do, there is obviously some sitting at the front here that we'll use up. I'm tempted to actually throw this one away. This was the maize plus one. It's a bit like a Lego block. Still running. We can. Let's connect you from there. Need to do a little bit of maintenance. Need to put some fuel in. Well, we don't have a fuel tank on this part of the farm, do we? That's a job for another day. Let's have a quick look in the sales. Not that we've got the money just at the minute, but we should have. We do have a few things to sell. A big weight. Don't have a tractor that would do that justice. Gravity wagon, another little tractor. Self-propelled. Oh, that'd be nice. Don't think we're quite up to 146 grand is the only problem. That also wouldn't be bad. Interesting. But next time we're gonna have sugar beet and corn to get in, and that will finish off our harvests. And then we've got quite a lot of field work to be going on with whilst we get the animals sorted. So plenty of activity. Let's jump back in as we can turn around and finish that mulching a little bit faster than he can. Let's get rid of you. Not too much to go. We're going to have a lot of maize silage, that's for sure. I don't know if I've got a sell point for maize silage actually, now that I think of it. Right here, maize silage. Oh yeah, the biogas plant will take it. So potentially we can turn some of that into cash. Which might be a good idea. Because we don't use it as fast as I expected. Let's just zip around here, get that tidied off. A little bit of dust late in the day, just to make sure you go home and you look like you've done a day's work. Mrs. is happy with you. We go. Pull it back and get that last little bit that's going to annoy me. Good. Change gear. There we go. Just about enough room on the headland now to do a Yui. Skip a row or two. And go back and tidy up. Come on, where'd you go? Goodness me. Load it in. Judge this end nicely and got the other end wrong. Never mind. Even stripes all over the place. Not the most agile of tractors. It's not too bad, but just doesn't like turning in its own circle. A zero-turn tractor it is not. There, that bit there. So a little bit over here, and a little bit down the edge there. Just at some stage clean up that oak tree that's there too. It's been sitting there since the very first stream where we cut this field out. That's that section. Any luck? 3 stripes up here, and that's that bit done. So get you roughly in the right spots. Up. Turn over with some lime. Whoops, go in the right direction. do around here. Pop much on, so it's not too bad. Zip across there. There we go. Oh, we're here. Actually, there you go. Across the top. Close out this funny little shape that I left. Nice. Bit there that doesn't look like it needs any. A bit there that wants some. Just get that plough sorted, which I can do between streams, and we'll get the canola in the ground and we'll be in good shape. I think you're last man standing, Hodge One. Thank you for anyone who's sitting back in the chat. Very much appreciated having you with me today. We got pretty close to all the work done that I was aiming for. That bit's all finished there. So that's where we might leave it. We'll be back in 3 days' time on the Oaks, where there is much happening, much development. And we'll be back here next week, same time. So thanks very much. And Jason, you are still hiding there. Excellent. Thank you very much for being here also. Appreciate you and Hodge One sticking with me to the end, and we'll catch you later on. Have a good one. See ya.